Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stu here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll go through the main newspapers as we have been doing over the last few days, see what the main stories are here in Spain. We'll look at El Mundo as we did the other day, El Pais. We'll have a look at the national broadcaster as well. We'll have a look at El Confidencial, and we'll finish it off with ABC newspaper to get a broad spectrum of what is happening around the country at the moment. And then at the end of the video, we'll go through some of the comments and see what's happening in the comment section. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. So we'll check out some of the comments and see if I can give my 20 cents worth on some of those. Now we'll get stuck into the news. The first newspaper we're going to look at today is El Mundo. So we'll go into El Mundo here, and we can see that the main story that greets us when we get into El Mundo online is Manueco, who is the president of Castilla y León, saying, "Queremos proteger la salud en Castilla y León y hacer el menor daño a la economía." So basically what he's saying here is that he's trying to weigh up the economy and the health situation in Castilla y León. They want to protect people's health, but they also want the economy to function, which is very, very difficult at the moment because, as we know, lots of places are closing down, especially when it comes to bars and restaurants, shopping centres and things like that, places where people gather. And of course, the controversy yesterday was that in Castilla y León they imposed a curfew starting at 8 p.m, which apparently is illegal because the state of alarm here in Spain, which is currently in place by the central government, doesn't allow for that time frame. Curfews can only take place between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning. They're talking about changing that. We'll see something about that in just a moment, but that's the problem that they have in Castilla y León at the moment, and that's what the president here is saying, that he wants to try to balance that health and economy aspect. And let's be honest, that has been very difficult for countries to do. At least here in Spain, they haven't been able to balance the economy very well with the health situation. We've been on this continuous roller coaster ride of opening up, closing down, opening up, closing down, and nobody can get it right. So we'll see in coming days if Castilla y León is able to get that curfew lowered, because that's what they feel they need in order to get the health situation under control in that particular autonomous community. And one of the things about Castilla y León is it's a very big autonomous community as well. There's lots of cities there, for example, Segovia, Avila, Valladolid, Burgos, Zamora is another city in Castilla y León, Soria, Palencia, I think, is another one as well. So there's lots of cities there. They're not big cities, but they are important cities in that particular autonomous community. And as I said, it's quite extensive. A lot of distance between the regional capitals there, and also León, which is a capital that I didn't mention before. I don't know how I forgot that, considering that it is Castilla y León. Now we'll go back into El Mundo and we'll have a look at another article here, one on the right side of the page, Política. PP, Vox and Ciudadanos cargan contra Pablo Iglesias por comparar a Puigdemont con los exiliados republicanos. Let's click on this article here. And basically what they're saying here is that the right-wing parties here in Spain, PP, Vox, Ciudadanos, are angry at Pablo Iglesias. He had an interview last night, I think, on La Sexta, which is one of the TV channels here, and he talked about a whole range of things, and as we can see, he has annoyed various right-wing parties here. PP, Vox and Ciudadanos, as I said, are angry with Pablo Iglesias because he compared Puigdemont. Puigdemont is the former Catalan leader who is in exile in Belgium, I think. He compared them with the exiled Republicans from the Civil War. Now, I didn't watch the interview, but we can see the right here in Spain are not very happy with Iglesias for comparing Mr. Puigdemont with those exiled Republicans from the Civil War. Obviously, they think that there's no comparison, that Mr. Puigdemont is in Belgium for a completely different reason. He's a criminal, according to the right-wing parties here in Spain. So I imagine that that is going to be a much debated topic in coming days, considering that Pablo Iglesias is the vice president of the government and quite a prominent politician nowadays here in Spain. Now we'll go back into the news. We'll leave El Mundo. We'll go to El Pais now, see what is happening there. And the first headline that we can see here in El País is Sanidad abordará este miércoles con las autonomías el posible adelanto del toque de queda a las 20 horas. So this is what I mentioned before. The health department is going to tackle the issue of that earlier curfew here in Spain, talk about bringing it down to 8 p.m. Various autonomous communities here in Spain, we saw Castilla y León, Andalusia also wants to have that curfew start at 8. They're not happy about the curfew starting at 10, so they also want to bring it forward. I'm not sure that Madrid is in favour of that because, of course, their curfew starts at 11. I don't think they want to bring it forward because, as we know, Madrid likes to do things differently here in Spain. But at least two areas, Castilla y León, as I mentioned, and Andalucía, want to get that curfew brought forward to 8 p.m. So we'll see what happens in that meeting on Wednesday, but that's one of the main things that El Pais is talking about here at the moment. Now we'll leave El Pais, we'll go to El Confidencial, we'll see what the main news story there. Again, we are greeted firstly here with the map of Spain and the graph of the evolution of the virus here. We'll just have a quick look at what's happening in some of the autonomous communities. We know that Extremadura has the highest amount of cases per 100,000 over the last 100 days, now at 1,220, as we can see there. We'll go to Valencia as well, 760, Andalucía 463. If we have a look at some of those areas in the north of the country that don't have the dark blue colour, so for example, we'll click on Asturias, 257.24, and of course the Canary Islands 163.88. So the situation a lot better in the Canary Islands than it is on mainland Spain. Having a look at the graph here on the right, we can see that we are peaking. We're over 25,000 people average per day here in Spain, and as we can see, well and truly into the third wave according to this graph. Now we'll go down quickly and see what the main news here is in El Confidencial. El virus da un respiro en Cataluña y Andalucía duplica su tasa de contagio. So good news in Catalonia, bad news in Andalucía. And basically that's what's happening all over the country at the moment. One place goes up, another place comes down. One area gets the situation under control, another area has a situation which is out of control. So that's the problem that we're living at the moment. And as we can see, a bit of relief in Catalonia, but Andalucía duplica su tasa. It doubles its current rate of infections. Now we'll leave El Confidencial and we'll go to the next one on my list here, which is RTVE, the national broadcaster. And let's have a look what's happening there. Well, we've got the Goyas on tonight. For anybody who doesn't know, the Goyas are the Spanish equivalent to the Oscars, where they celebrate Spanish film and cinema, and they are apparently on tonight. We'll go down here and see if there's any more news that catches my attention. Here we go. Araceli. Araceli was the first lady in Spain to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. We'll see what she has to say here, and it says, Araceli recibe la segunda dosis, tengo ganas de ver a mi familia, no lo hago desde que está este bicho por aquí. So Araceli, the first lady to receive the COVID-19 vaccine here in Spain, has just received her second dose, and she says here that she really wants to see her family, tengo ganas de ver a mi familia, and she hasn't seen her family since this pandemic began. We can see here a photo of Araceli there greeting the press. So some good news there for this particular lady in Guadalajara, the first lady to receive the vaccine here in Spain. She's going to be able to see her family, something that she hasn't done for close to a year now. So good luck to her. Now we'll go back into the news and we'll leave RTVE and we'll go to the final newspaper today, which is ABC. I'm going through the news quite quickly today because the morning has slipped away from me. I had to go to the bank and do a few other things this morning, so I don't have much time to do this video now. It's nearly time for lunch. I have to prepare lunch for my son, because of course he is homeschooling again today and tomorrow, but hopefully he'll go back to school on Wednesday and I'll have a bit more time on my hands. But let's go into ABC here and we can see the news about Pablo Iglesias again. Pablo Iglesias insulta la memoria del exilio republicano ante el silencio de la izquierda. So Pablo Iglesias there being accused by ABC of insulting the historical memory of those that were exiled on the Republican side during the Civil War. Remember that ABC is a conservative right-wing newspaper here in Spain. It's a great supporter of the monarchy, and of course they're going to be upset with what Pablo Iglesias said. Now we'll go back into the news and click on this article here about Pedro Sánchez, see what's happening there. Pedro Sánchez no sabe si invitó a sus amigos a veranear en los palacios del Estado. Presidencia dice transparencia que no le consta y que no exigen registros. So a bit of a controversy here, at least for this newspaper, that Pedro Sánchez may have invited some friends to spend time in the presidential palaces around the country over the summer period. But of course, Mr. Sánchez can't remember whether he did or not. And the government has come out and said that they don't have any record of people staying with Sánchez during that time. Of course, ABC newspaper has an ongoing campaign about the government and their lack of transparency. And this is just another of one of the many, many stories that they have published in the the last 6 months or so about the lack of transparency that the current government here in Spain has. And of course, Mr. Sanchez here saying that he can't remember whether he had people or guests staying with him in his summer palace over the holidays. So ABC newspaper like a dog with a bone when it comes to Pedro Sanchez and his lack of transparency. Now let's go into the comment section now on some of the videos. We'll see what's happening there. I'll just open them up. And we've got a few comments here. We'll have a look at this first one here from Michael. Hi Stuart, thanks for your continual updates. Where I live in the Marina Alta on the Costa Blanca, 2 mayors are being investigated for having the vaccination before pensioners and frontline workers. I know it won't surprise you, but it shows that things will never change. Didn't hear from the mayor before and definitely won't hear from her now. Yeah, Michael, thanks for the comment. I have seen this in the press in recent times. Apparently it's not the only case. I think there were a few cases in Catalonia as well. Not the same as this one here because we're talking about politicians, but I think in Catalonia a few health workers managed to put a few of the vaccines in their pockets and take them home and give them to family members. And you're right, it doesn't surprise me. In fact, it probably doesn't surprise anybody in this country that this type of things happen, and things never seem to change. As we mentioned before, there's a lack of transparency, there's a lack of accountability. The mayor, you said you never heard from her before and you won't hear from her now. That's because we don't hear very much from politicians in this country. I've mentioned in various videos that they live in a bubble. They live above the population. You very rarely have contact with them. It's not like in the UK or in Australia where politicians have to have a local office or branch where you can theoretically call them up or knock on their door and they have to take your complaint or they have to listen to you at least. That doesn't happen here, and I don't think things are going to change anytime soon. Now we'll go back into the comment section. We'll have a look at this one here from Paul. I really appreciate when you speak Spanish because I find people in the media, TV and radio speak too quickly. Luckily my friends speak more clearly. Entonces entiendo. As a resident of the Valencia community, we can go to the hairdressers, barbers, nail bars, but we can't go for a coffee, beer or wine. Keep up the good work. Yeah, Paul, thanks for the comment. That is one of the problems with Spanish, that people do speak very, very quickly, or at least it seems that they do speak very, very quickly. Of course, the more you train your ear, the easier it will be for you to understand what they are saying, even when they do speak very quickly. The biggest problem that I have is when people don't vocalize. I had a problem a few years ago with a couple of friends of mine that they didn't vocalize very well. You couldn't understand what they were saying. It wasn't that they were speaking quickly, it was just that they were mumbling all the time, and that hindered my ability to understand them. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I find that women seem to speak more clearly. It seems to be easier for me to understand women when they speak than men. I don't know whether that's just here in Spain, but I definitely find that I can understand women a lot easier than I can men when they speak. And you mentioned there that in Valencia you can go to the hairdresser, you can get your nails done if you want, you can go to the barber shop, get your beard trimmed, but you can't have a coffee or a beer. And I suppose that that has to do with the fact that they consider those businesses that you mentioned there first, the hairdressers, etc., as essential businesses, but bars, restaurants, coffee shops are not. So I imagine that's what the reasoning is behind that rule. So as I said yesterday, a little bit confusing what you can and can't do in Spain at the moment. Now on that note, I'm going to wrap the video up. I'm a bit pushed for time today, as I said before, so leave those questions and comments in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in tomorrow's video, which is going to be the English version of the news. Hasta entonces, hasta luego.